criticism continues to grow over the recently published Basic Education Laws Amendment Act regulations, or BELA, of course, for short. Now, some unions are warning the discipline in schools could completely collapse, while the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education is calling for a review of regulations. Now, of course, the law also touches on language policy and school capacity. Education expert Mr. Hendrick Makaneta joins us for more on this. Mr. Makaneta, good evening to you on a Sunday evening. We appreciate you making time. So this is interesting because just time is going to run quite fast as we get closer to the 5th of September, which is by then all public comments should have been submitted onto the regulations that have been published by the Department of Education. Before we get into the issue of discipline, what do you make by the concerns that have been raised by the Portfolio Committee on Education, that only 2 of these regulations have been put forward of public comment, something that the Portfolio Committee is really concerned about, that much more of them should have been open for that interaction?
Naledi, definitely. I think that the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education has got a point. But of course, you'll remember that at some point when the BELA, even before the BELA bill was signed into law, now the BELA Act, there was a lot of commotion around the 2 sections which were a bone of contention, which deal with, admission policies as well as the language policies of the schools. And of course, the minister is within a right to publish guidelines, to which members of the public must make inputs. And I think that in one way or the other, whether all of them can be looked at or specific sections, it all boils down to, at some point, we'll have to, the process will have to be finished because the guidelines will be able to guide everybody on how to implement, specific sections of the Act itself. Yeah,
because I think that the issue that's being raised by the Portfolio Committee chair is perhaps that there is a fear that there might be some politicking that's taking place here, that the minister, for instance, and let me actually look at a quote from the Portfolio Committee, maybe that would help. We warned as the Portfolio Committee that the executive should not utilize enacting of the regulations to try and win certain things that they could not win during public participation. So, I mean, is that a concern for you, that this BELA Act continues to be a hot potato between political actors that all have a massive role to play in education in the country?
Yes, definitely BELA up to now has divided society, into 2, with those who are pro the Act and those who are against some of the clauses. And I think that what is important now is the fact that the public participation process is now open, and that each and every member of society has got the right to make their inputs. And I think that what is important is that whatever inputs that are made, from all sectors of society, the general well-being of our learners should be at the center. We must all agree that, without learners, this type of Act would not be necessary. So the Act is there to protect the learners, but also to ensure that they learn in an environment where they can be able to create a better future for themselves. So, so I think that should be the end goal.
So let's get into some of the concerns that have been raised by teachers and some unions. And I do want to start with an explainer, for instance, so you could help parents that are watching this and to really get to hear the concerns of teachers. That say that they are worried that the BELA Act, takes away a lot of their power where discipline is concerned in the classroom. Now, naturally, as has been the case for many years, corporal punishment, for instance, not allowed in our schools and has been outlawed for a very long time. But explain some of the bigger concerns that are being raised by teachers here about even their abilities to further discipline teachers, to further discipline learners, rather, as a result of this piece of legislation.
Naledi, it is true that corporal punishment has been redefined by the BELA Act. In the past, we all know that generally corporal punishment was abolished in 1996. Now, what the BELA seeks to do, or what the BELA Act seeks to do, is just an amendment, of the South African Schools Act to redefine what corporal punishment means. Because in the past, it only meant, spanking or hitting a child, that particular violent behavior. But right now, it simply means that we must also look at other factors such as, for instance, denying a child the opportunity to go to a bathroom or to go to a toilet for that matter. That on its own is against the law. Because I'm aware that some of the teachers have been using, this type of approach to say if a learner is not disciplined, they could even deny the learner a chance, to go for a break, for example, to go and eat. So that thing is outlawed. No teacher will be allowed, to stop a learner, from gaining access to their meals or from going to a toilet whenever they wish like going. So even if the learner wants to go and come back and go again, the teacher cannot say, but you've been there twice already, therefore now you're no more going. So they can't say that, because if they say that, that will be, against the law on its own.
Yeah, unfortunately though, just in the true nature of just the inequality that we have in this country, depending on where your child goes and in which part of the country you're facing very serious challenges. So discipline needing to be something that is understood and given some attention to in schools, for instance, where you have gangsterism particularly rife.
Naledi, the issue of discipline is the most important aspect of life, because it does not only start at school level, it also starts at home. I'm sure that every parent, especially those who have got young kids, they are generally from childhood, a child is engaged in issues of discipline. So, teachers as the secondary parents, because if you look at the duty of care, it outlines that in the absence of the parent, at school level, the teacher automatically become the parent. And BELA poses an additional responsibility on the shoulders of the teachers to come up with, effective ways and means of handling discipline. Apart from those type of disciplinary measures that can harm the child. I think that BELA seeks to protect the dignity of the child in the process.
Yeah.
So not that teachers will not be allowed to discipline the kids, they will still be able to apply disciplinary measures, but of course it should not be something that harms the dignity of the child.
Yeah, up until the 5th of September, once again, you do have the BELA regulations that are open for public comment up until that date. Two issues come up, the language policy that we touched on earlier and that of capacity. Now, let's sit with capacity a little bit, Mr. Makaneta, because for organizations like March and March, for instance, or Dudula, they've raised the issue over and over again that capacity problems in our schools are continuously an issue, especially when you look at how the BELA Act does allow for, and to some extent, and this is what we need to break down, right? That children that are undocumented also should have access to education. So, I mean, it is a tough rope for schools to walk where that is concerned, considering the capacity challenges that we do see. So how do you see that being resolved post the 5th of September?
Naledi, the issue of capacity is one of the biggest challenges that we face as a country. We know that in Gauteng and Western Cape, particularly every year, we sit with unplaced learners, some of whom have got the necessary documents, but for one reason or another, they may not find themselves in class. And so it is true that learners who do not have documents or undocumented children, especially undocumented children of illegal immigrants who might still be processing their papers in the Home Affairs Department, they are allowed, to be in the classroom. In terms of the Makhanda High Court ruling, which was made some few years back, you'll recall that at that time, the Eastern Cape Provincial Education Department tried to block some of the undocumented children from entering their schools. And, the Center for Child Law took up this case in terms of litigation with the Makhanda High Court, where the court was able to rule that Section 29 of the Constitution of the Republic gives everyone, the right to access education, especially basic education in our country. And this includes, when it talks about everyone, it's everyone within our borders. So meaning that even if a child can come with an undocumented parent and land in our borders, that child, in terms of the law, has got the right to education. Perhaps those who drafted the Constitution in 1996 did not foresee that, the whole question of, capacity might bring some constraints, in communities. I think that the Constitution is very clear. So everyone who qualifies, every child has got the right to be in class, irrespective of whether they have got documentation or not. And I hear what Dudula is saying. They've been saying that they will be blocking some of these foreign nationals who have no documents. But the reality is that if they do that, they will be acting against the law itself, which might pose a problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to leave it there, Mr. Makaneta. Thank you so much for your time as we look at the BELA Act. Says 2 of its regulations are seeing public comment up until the 5th of September. This while teachers have raised concern about discipline in schools and the kind of support that they need to keep law and order in their classrooms. But Mr. Hendrick Makaneta, of course, is an education activist.